Can you believe it? It has happened. Bryce Harper has signed. The long, drawn-out free agency 2019 is over. Josh Hill, Mark Carman here with you. And yes, 13 big years, $330 million. Bryce Harper is a Philadelphia Philly.
Yeah.
Big day here, Hill.
It is. The long, terrible nightmare is over of where's Machado going to sign, where's Harper going to sign. And it turns out it's exactly what we thought it was going to be back in December. Harper's in Philadelphia. Machado is somewhere, San Diego, as it turns out. But, I mean, now the drama's over.
Yeah,
it's anticlimactic.
Is this an anticlimactic?
It's anticlimactic. The only interesting part about this is that he got a 13-year contract, which is a little weird. That's not what we were expecting. But when the length of the contract, which is already insanely long, is the biggest, most interesting wrinkle of all of this, and there's no opt-outs, which means he's in, which is big.
The no opt-out part is the most interesting thing to me. If we're going to delve into a financial contract deep dive, you get Nolan Arenado signs yesterday.
Yep.
Okay, he gets opt-out in every year after year 4. The guy's making $32 million a year. If that's not enough for you, you can opt out this year and next year and 22 and 23, 24, 25. Manny Machado gets an opt-out after 5 years. If he wants to get out of San Diego, he can do it. Bryce Harper, you are stuck.
Prison sentence.
In Philadelphia. Now, granted, you're going to be making a whole lot of dough, and Philadelphia is a fine city, but no opt-out. The Phillies control him.
I actually like that, and I'll tell you why. Because one thing that Bryce Harper got dragged for a little bit, not as much as Kevin Durant or LeBron James or some of these other players in other sports that are superstars, the loyalty thing. Why didn't you go back to Washington? Come on, Washington's your team. You can't do this. How can you do this to those fans? And I don't know if this is a direct response to that, but the fact that he's like, look, I am the Philadelphia Phillies for the next 13 years. I am Bryce Harper, superstar, capital S. I am in Philadelphia. There's no opt-outs. Don't question my loyalty. I'm here. The only way I'm going is if you cut me or if you trade me. He's put it on the Phillies, and he's put it kind of on everybody else to say, I am not going anywhere. I'm not voluntarily leaving this situation. You will have to move me. I don't know if that's in a response to the loyalty questions that he had when he was leaving Washington, but it's certainly a statement.
So do we believe that Bryce Harper, because there was a lot of narrative out there, Harper doesn't want to go to Philadelphia. He hates the Phillies. Why? If he loved the Phillies, he would have already signed. Well, now he just signed for 13 years with no opt-out, so maybe that whole narrative was just complete BS.
I think he was waiting to see where the market was going to be. He was never going to be the first one to sign. Harper was not going to set his own market. He was going to let Machado do that. And at the time, we were talking about $175 million contracts with the Yankees, and that wasn't going to happen, and that's nowhere near what either of them wanted. Then Arenado coming in kind of as a dark horse and getting his extension in Colorado changed the game a little bit. Now Harper, who was always going to be the last one to sign, is the last one to sign. $300 million, 13 years. Not bad. It
is interesting, and if just the way the world works. If Scott Boras would like to represent me, I'll just stop going to work, act like I've got a million different offers, and all of a sudden I'm going to like triple my pay.
Unless you're Kyler Murray and you screw the entire thing up, which he did. But that's a different story.
Right. But in this particular baseball offseason, though, Manny just sat there forever, got his $300 million. Bryce sits there forever, gets his $330 million. I mean, I guess the Dodgers stepped up in the end, and the Giants were rumored to be there.
I don't think those were ever going to happen, though. I don't know.
Clearly not.
Because another thing that factors into this for Harper is he wants to win. Like, he's not this has kind of been a narrative between Harper and Machado heading into this offseason is who wants to win and who wants to get paid. And it's always kind of been assumed that Harper wants to win because he's been so close to doing it in Washington and hasn't been able to get over the hump. Machado's been in Baltimore. They've had good years with him, but they've not had nearly as much success as Harper has had in Washington. So he wants to win, and he's going to a Philadelphia team that is going to be good. Like, they have a really deadly lineup. Like, it could all come apart at the seams, but they've got a decent infield. They've got a great outfield. You've got two horses at the top of that rotation in Nola, and you've got Arrieta over there. They've got a deep bullpen. They just added Robertson this offseason.
Yep.
So Philadelphia is going to be a really good team.
You got up-and-coming borderline superstar to be in Rhys Hoskins.
Yeah.
You've got you pick up Gene Segura in the offseason. You pick up JT Realmuto, who's going to catch for the Phillies.
It's a good lineup.
It's a good lineup, and then of course Bryce goes right in the middle of it. And McCutchen too. I mean, maybe you get a.
You got Herrera out in the outfield too. Like, you've got a decent outfield.
Yeah. No. And okay.
And what are you going up against in the National League East is the other question. Washington now, they're going to be a year or so away because they've got pieces. Soto's over there. They've got pieces where in a couple of years they might be a little bit ready to bounce back. The Braves are a threat, but they could regress after last year. They arrived a little bit early. The Marlins aren't anything to worry about. And then the Mets, you never know what they're going to be. Robinson, Cano, they've got DeGrom and Syndergaard, but last year they had those two and they weren't any good. So the Phillies, they have a chance. It's kind of the conversation we had like when Machado signed with San Diego. What's going on in the rest of the National League? Where are the Cubs at this year? Are the Brewers going to be as good as they were last year? What's happening in the National League West? I mean, the Dodgers are the Dodgers, but the Giants aren't good. The Rockies might compete. Are the Diamondbacks like? This is a time the Phillies want to go for it. Go for it. There is no clear-cut Titan in the National League.
Well, and this is a huge kick in the pants, in my mind, at least for the Cubs. Bryce Harper is named his dog Wrigley.
Chris Bryant's buddy.
He's best friends with Chris Bryant. They both grew up in Las Vegas together. Reportedly, numerous times he wanted to go to the Dodgers and or the Cubs. The Cubs weren't in this at all because of Jason Hayward and Yu Darvish.
Yep.
And even, which wasn't mentioned as much, but also signing Cole Hamels to a one-year, $20 million deal because Yu Darvish can't stay healthy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Harper, if the Cubs had been in on this, I actually think they would have gotten him. And it is interesting, like, the Yankees just sat this out, period.
Yeah.
I mean,
the Yankees are waiting for Mike Trout. That's what the Yankees are waiting for. They didn't go after Machado because they have Miguel Andujar at third base, who can't play defense, but he can learn.
Right.
They were maybe going to go out and get Arenado, but he re-signed in his extension in Colorado, so that's whatever. Harper was maybe an option a little bit, but they want to go after Trout, who's a Yankees fan. He's from Jersey. Like, come on. Jersey Mikes? Like, that is an endorsement that writes itself if you're Mike Trout. That's who they're waiting for.
Okay. I mean, do they know something? Does Mike Trout want to play for the Yankees?
Well, I mean, I would say it's a fair assumption if they want to go after him that he would want to come out of the doldrums of
right. We're going to be the highest paid spot.
The Angels have one of the best players the last 50 years in baseball. Not the best, but one of the best. I mean, this is like a modern day Mickey Mantle, and he's completely shielded from the entire sports world.
No, it's fair.
Because he plays for the Angels.
It's fair.
Put that guy in New York with the Yankees, put him next to Aaron Judge, put him next to Giancarlo Stanton. Sure. Holy cow.
God, baseball. It gets a little rough at times. So, all right, will the Phillies regret this? I never like these deals. $330 million for 13 years. 13. I do like that they actually. Normally, I would hate the 13 years, but in this case, everyone thought it was 10 years for $330. So hey, we'll take the last three if you're still going, and we'll spread out the money. I actually think that plays in the Phillies' favor. He's going to be 39 years old.
They got him basically until he's 40.
Right. The rest of your career is in Philadelphia. We got you until you're 39 years old. Nowadays, if he actually take care of himself, you could get to 39 and still be doing something of productivity. I don't know. Who knows what baseball looks like at that point? DH comes in the National League. You probably think that will be the case. From a Phillies standpoint, do you like it?
I like it. They had to make this move. It's been rumored since he hit the market that Philly was going to be a spot where he could go. This was bubbling up at the end of the season when everybody was talking about Chicago and LA and New York. And in the back of everybody's mind, Philly kept kind of gnawing away a little bit. And now they've walked away with the biggest prize in free agency. Like, they have one of the faces of baseball playing in Philadelphia. That is huge. They have that for the next 13 years. And let's say this starts to go downhill in the next 5, 6, 7 years. Then what situation are you in? Oh, we're going to try and trade Bryce Harper. Like, there are worse players to try and trade. And there will be suitors. No matter how he is playing in a couple of years, if it gets to the point where they're like, we're cutting bait, we're going to trade him, somebody's going to take that. So I love it for Philly. There's always a chance that this won't work out because you look at other contracts like Albert Pujols, who went from St. Louis to the Angels. That didn't work out. Alex Rodriguez went to the Yankees. re-signed a couple of times for a bunch of money. I mean, they won a World Series, but it ended. That legacy is the steroid stuff. Alfonso Soriano on the Cubs, that never ended up working out. So these big contracts are scary because they more often than not don't pan out the way you think they are. But 13 years is a long timeline. He's not going to be consistently good for all 13 years.
He hasn't been consistently good to this point in his career. He's been, the last 4 years, he's been up, he's been down, he's been up, he's been down.
But all they need is a couple World Series out of this, and it's going to be worth it.
Just a couple World Series, no biggie.
Well, I mean, the Cubs have one World Series. Like, it came after that had the weight of history against it. But that was a team where everybody said, oh, this is going to be a dynasty. Look, they got Rizzo, they got Bryant, they've got Javi Baez, they got all of these, Madden's manager. This is going to be a dynasty. And they've struggled. The Yankees have been the same way. In the 90s and the 2000s, they kind of had that dynasty going. But they haven't been able to spend. They haven't been able to put. Even the Red Sox, who are a team that a lot of people think are going to go back to the World Series next year because they were one of the historically greatest teams last year. Who's going to say that's all going to come together? Baseball is not like other sports. It is a marathon, not a sprint. If you have a lineup like the Phillies have, you just need to make it work at certain times. That's why Bryce Harper's ebbs and flows, they're not that big of a deal because it's against all these other people in the lineup.
Largest total contract in the history of baseball, $330 million.
Wonder if he can send some of that to us.
You know that if he goes through his full 13 years, he will come to, the Nationals will see him in a Phillies uniform 247 times in the regular season. 247. That part of it, I'm sure that it gave him some level of comfort that he could be in the division. Okay, sweet, I get to go up against the Mets and now the Nationals, and great, I get to play against the Marlins, and I'm going to roll, and he's comfortable. But it's also, there is that whole part of it, like, you just left and you're in the same division. That is super painful for Washington.
It is. Well, I was going to ask you how you think that Washington fans are going to react when he comes back for the first time.
I mean, you got to boo him. You have to. I mean, as much as you appreciate what he did when he was there, you never won a playoff series.
Nope.
But
how much of that is on Harper? Because that's
some of it.
Some of it is on Harper, but I think another part of this that went into it for him going to Philly, staying within the division, is he saw in those years he was with the Nationals how easy it is to win at times in the National League East when you're going up against these teams. Now, the tides have changed a little bit because the Braves aren't what they were before.
Right.
But you still have the Marlins there. You still have the Mets there who are whatever. And the Nationals are going to be a year or so away from competing again. He's witnessed that you can get to the playoffs in that division. But he does not have faith that the Nationals front office is able to put together a lineup and a team around him that can get out of that first round. Now he's saying, okay, Philly knows what they're doing. I like what they're putting together here. I have faith in management. I have faith in the front office that they're going to put the tools around me that I need to succeed and that the team needs to succeed. So that, I think, is also something that went into this because he's looking at Washington as being like, look, you tried. You didn't work. Now I'm going to do this in Philly with somebody that I trust, which is an extra, rub of the salt in the wound.
That's probably, maybe there's some trust going on too, but Joel Sherman from the New York Post, who does great work as a MLB Network insider, he's reminding people on Twitter that the Nationals' $300 million, $100 million of that was deferred, and that was confirmed by someone not in the Boris camp. So he was going to get a ton of deferred money. He was going to pay him to the age of 62, which is some sweet security that you don't need when you're making that type of dough. You put it in the bank, live your dream. But so the Phillies, there's no deferred money. It's all coming to them, which money now is worth money down the road. So, I mean, if the Nationals had made the same offer to Harper that the Phillies, it maybe stays in Washington. I don't know.
I think he was scarred by how his time went there, just because they weren't able to put a team around him. And it's the same thing that I think is going to happen with Mike Trout, because he's a better player than Bryce Harper is, and he's in a worse situation with the Angels. And like I said, you put him on the Yankees, I mean, my God, he goes to the Mets or something like that. He goes anywhere other than with the Angels, somewhere where you have a competent front office that is going to say, hey, we have a generational superstar here. Let's maybe put some pieces around him and win some World Series before he runs out of gas. That's kind of what's going on here with Harper. He wants to get out of Washington. He's saying, let's go to Philly. Let's see if we can do this. Let's actually put myself in a position where the organization is going to look out for me, for the team, and we're going to win some playoff games, which is something he's barely done. Which, again, partly on him, mostly on the front office, because he's not LeBron. He's not calling the shots behind the scenes.
He's also banking on Gabe Kapler, who is an interesting...
Who may or may not be his manager.
Who may or may...
Yeah.
Who I would say most likely not.
Yeah.
Will be his manager.
But then you look at that, like Cap, because he's got some really nasty stuff, and if he deservedly deserves to go. But you now have that lineup in Philly. Mm-hmm. Cubs fire Madden. Madden's looking at that lineup saying, "All right, I got you. We're gonna go out here. I've got Harper. I've got Segura. I've got Arrieta, my guy. Like I'm gonna go out here. I'm gonna make this happen." And all of a sudden, you have a powerhouse in the National League that we have not seen in years.
Yeah, no, that's incredibly possible. All right, well, Bryce Harper's a Philadelphia Philly. It's all over. It happened.
Now we have to wait.
Right, now we get to wait.
Baseball's almost here.
March 28th, opening day. Enjoy it. But we'll wrap it up with that. Manny Machado, San Diego. Bryce Harper, Philly. The Red Sox, the Yankees, the Cubs, the Dodgers, the Giants, the Angels even, I'll throw them in there. Sometimes they'll spend big dough. I'll set it out this year.
It's Philly.
The Philadelphia Phillies.
City of Champions.
I guess so. They get the one and only Bryce Harper. Thanks for checking it out here as we break in live. Bryce Harper to the Philadelphia Phillies.